I hate autism. I used to say that for different reasons. When I first started on this journey, I hated autism because I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand my child. Now I hate autism because I understand that it's on a spectrum. It's as simple as that. And the spectrum is so vast. So for example, you have one end where you have someone that has autism and is able to use verbal language. They still have difficulties. They can get up, they could, tend to their personal care. I'm not saying they don't have challenges, but they're still able to function somewhat in society with those difficulties. You've then got, let's go to the middle part of this spectrum, where you may have someone that doesn't have so many challenges and needs that warrants, for example, having to go to a special school, maybe one-to-one care. They may still be masking at a school or a college or even at work. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, where I believe, or I know, that's where my son is, where I have to tend for his every need. He's 5 years old, but he may as well be a baby. There's no verbal language. I've spoken about this before. Some people say non-verbal, some say non-speaking. Really, there's just no verbal language there whatsoever. There's communication, which is different. He communicates with me. It may be hand pulling. It may be, putting his hand up when I'm trying to feed him and he doesn't want what I'm trying to give him. He may have a meltdown or a tantrum. That's all part of communication. I understand that. I have to tend to his personal needs. He's not yet toilet trained. He is not aware of danger. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if an opportunity arose, he would walk straight into the road. If there's an opportunity for my son to climb, he'll be up there. He absolutely loves it, okay? It could be the fence. It could be a wall. Anything where he feels that he can be elevated and high up and he'll want to jump off and get that thrill. Yeah, that's my child. He's having a whale of a time and I'm there with heart palpitations and running after him. And when people come in the house and they see that he may want to jump on the bed or climb up on the worktops, and they're literally thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? I suppose I'm just so used to it now. He can walk, but he refuses to walk. So most of the time he's either in his adapted pushchair, or I literally have to pick him up, place him on my hip and walk him to where he needs to be. It's also those really difficult conversations that I have with myself. And anything that I say on this channel is, I think that this is a safe space, and I just want to be honest with you, because I think that if I can just say something, it may resonate with someone who feels that they're not able to, or that they're on their own. But I have conversations with myself thinking, what's going to happen to my son when I'm no longer around? Or sometimes it gets really dark and I'm thinking, is it better for my son to go first, or should I go first? Those are the real conversations. That's the part of autism that I hate. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. In the beginning, autism terrified me. Not because of my son, because I genuinely didn't understand what was happening, or how I could support him. I felt lost, I felt overwhelmed, I felt guilty and constantly scared that I wasn't doing the right thing for him, if that makes sense. I also hated the fact that, I was gonna get judged by other people, or he was gonna get judged, the pressure, the fear. And I hated how alone I felt, actually. Um, just feeling that I could talk to someone, but do they really understand what I'm saying, or what I'm going through? Do they actually want to hear the ins and outs of my day? And then it came to a point where I just felt, you know what, Karina, just keep quiet about it. Just don't bother. But now I'm in a different position where I can speak to you directly, and to give you the benefit of my experience and how I felt, and just to say to you, don't feel ashamed. Okay, you're not doing anything wrong. With my son though, he's never a problem. He's just a tiny human trying to do his best and trying to exist in a world that made no sense to him. And the truth is, autism has changed my life. And, that's not in a tragic way that society wants to frame it. At first, it broke all my expectations of what parenting should look like. I had this beautiful baby boy, my third and final child. I was on cloud nine, and something hit me. It was like a brick just hit me when he got to that stage, and I've spoken about it before, where he was due for his 2-year review. And when I was completed the assessment form, I was like, oh, hold on a second. He's not meeting these milestones. And actually, yeah, I did notice that he's not saying mama and dada, and he's not trying to put on his coat and do things where I've had over 20 years of parenting. My eldest, she's in her 20s. So for me, that hit me hard. And I suppose, honestly, I had to grieve what I thought parenting would be, and be something different for my son. But actually, as I learned more, I stopped trying to fix him. Instead, I'm just trying to understand him. And when I did that, I would say that's when things shifted for us. I became a lot calmer. I mean, there are some instances where I do have to react, and that's not to him. Admittedly, it might be to family members where I may see that, they may be treating him a little bit differently, and I just feel that it's a bit too tough. They should give him some grace and just leave him alone, that kind of overprotective mother. But generally, I'm just so calm, and I'm a lot more patient, to a point where I'm just so laid back with him. I'm not so patient with services, and that's another story. But when it comes to him, nothing's a problem. I'm patient. I've got all day for my son. I've also learned how to communicate differently with him. And I'm trying to explain that to other people, that it may just take your child a little bit longer to process what they're hearing. So I'll give you an example. One of my other children may wish to change, little one's nappy, or to put his pajamas on for bed. They would just automatically go to him and start doing what they need to do. And I would just be like, well, hold on a second. You haven't explained to him what you're doing. I mean, if someone came to me and they started pulling my arm because they wanted to get my pajamas on, or, I would be thinking, hey, get off me, what's going on? So I'm trying to instill into, family members and others that, yeah, he's non-speaking, but he's not deaf. Tell him what you're doing or what you're planning to do. If you feel that you can't verbalize it to him, then, we have picture cards for absolutely everything. You can just show him what you're doing. And that's so important, because it's more than likely that he's doing something else, whether it's he's playing on the tablet, whether he's, playing with his fidget toy, he's in the middle of something. So for you to just approach him and coming on, changing his nappy without there being any instructions or acknowledgement or, informing of him, there's going to be a problem. I've also learned to slow down. I know things are going to take a little longer. We get up a little bit earlier. If we have to go out, I leave time. I know things happen, I know life happens, and there may be the odd occasion where, yes, we are running late or something happens and I've just had to calm him down at home before I take him out, okay? But generally, just slow yourself down. I've also learned to, celebrate things that maybe other people don't typically even notice or feel that it's a big deal, but for me, it's a huge milestone. It could be anything. It could be now I'm saying, okay, son, let's get our coat on. We're going to school, and I'll show him his coat and he'll put his arm out. And I'm just there thinking, oh my gosh, that is so wonderful, and he's looking at me like, Mum, are you okay? And I'm literally just emotional because that's such an accomplishment, and I'm celebrating all those wins, whether it's just directly with myself or with him, and shouting and praising him, and hugging him and telling him well done. My son has also taught me how to see the world differently, and I know that it has made me a better human. And if you're in that early stage right now where you're confused and you're scared and you're overwhelmed and you hate autism, I want you to know something, okay? Don't pretend that it's okay. Don't rush it either. And don't pretend that you have all the answers. Autism doesn't ruin families. Lack of support does. Lack of understanding does. Lack of acceptance does. Your child is going to lead you. They are going to communicate with you. You just need to be open to learning alongside them. And trust me, your life is going to change too. Maybe not in the way that you expected, but absolutely in the way that you needed.